Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hello there and welcome to the program. It is March 10th and it is Tuesday, and normally Susan joins us, but I wasn't sure if she would be joining us today, and it appears she's not going to be able to. And that is a direct result of the coronavirus. Not that she has it, not that my mother has it, but they are there in California where, as I said, it feels a lot more real there. And because both are over 60, my mother pushing 98, and getting increasingly nervous because she's a news junkie. And she figures if she gets on the airplane in 2 weeks, which is when they were going to come back, she's dead. Susan did call in? Good. Susan.
I was reading. Good morning. Sorry, I was reading, and then I went, oh, it's 7.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're in, because I thought, I thought maybe you were working on getting you guys out of there and didn't want to be bothered with this, but...
No, it's even worse than that. It rained here last night, and I woke up to the sound of rain in the living room again.
Rain in the living room. That doesn't sound good. Rain in the living room.
No, I've been cleaning up since like 5.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Okay, but I didn't know if you would be calling in because I know you're scrambling to figure out a way to get back home. Here in Pittsburgh and since I've left California, the level of concern is just nowhere near as real. There have been no cases reported thus far in Allegheny County. Of course, that will change, but it just, I don't think it seems real to people here like it seemed to in California. And it's odd. It's just a different, I don't think it's hit home here as much. Anyway.
Well, people are still walking around and doing things, but there's a lot of concern. For example, we did go and play duplicate bridge yesterday, which means going into a large room with, several people. But they had the tables all, several feet apart from each other. They had every day they sanitize everything, all the cards, everything you touch, and there was sanitizer. Actually, they don't have sanitizers. There were just little bottles of rubbing alcohol on every table.
Rubbing alcohol. Well, yeah, but the cards, even if they sanitize the cards, everyone at your table who's touching them, you have to believe is
you have to believe is, yes, but that's why everybody has clean hands, and it was very interesting to see. Some people are totally unaware, and some people are overly concerned. But I don't know. Some of our visitors are canceling, not coming to see us, which is good.
Good.
But yeah, the people that I thought were going to come and take my car back home are reconsidering, and I don't blame them. So right. Mom and I might just take a nice leisurely road trip home.
Well, you'll be going, having flown across the expanse, you would have to drive. There's next to no people. This is right. It is just, you're talking desert and scrub and mountains, and I don't know. There's not a lot of human beings to come in contact with.
No. I don't think. No, we've just decided if that's what's going to happen, we're just going to enjoy ourselves and take
All right.
easy road trip home. I'm just refuse to get freaked out by any of this. What will be, will be. So.
Wow. Good for you.
Well, no, seriously. I mean, I think we all have to use a little common sense with our panic. We've had these things sweep the nation before, sweep the world before. They are not pleasant. Part of what makes this one so scary is that in trying to get us to behave appropriately, they have to make it clear how easily this stuff is spread. That doesn't mean we're all going to die. That doesn't mean, much more than a large minority of us will die, but some of us will die. If you're healthy and you don't have any underlying conditions, then try and be smart and stay well for the people around you who are not healthy.
Uh-huh.
That's it. This isn't, oh my God, we're all going to die.
No.
This is, would you please behave responsibly, all of us, each of us?
Well, I think
For example,
that's beyond a lot of people.
What happened
what you just said.
So the example of this, what happened in St. Louis, in my old backyard, is that it's a sort of attack of affluenza. Do you remember that? Affluenza?
Oh, yeah.
So a wealthy young woman who's on study abroad in Italy comes home a few days ago from Italy ill with suspected coronavirus. She calls the health department, all responsibly. They tell her and her family to quarantine in place, just stay there, which everybody does for about a day and a half. But like the second day, that night was the father-daughter dance of the Hotsy Totsy private school that the younger daughter attends, and the older daughter was an alumni of, and they go to the local Ritz-Carlton, father and daughter.
Okay, well, this is exactly my point. Right, okay. They were told to stay in quarantine in place, and they go out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They go out because, heaven forbid, that little girl and that father should miss their father-daughter dance.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Well, see,
so I'm just
that's
saying,
just...
that is an example of bad behavior. But let me tell you what happens. I feel sorry for those people. I mean, the first day, the paper reports that story. The second day, the headline is fury at family.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Who now have an attorney, and everybody's threatening to sue them. If anybody gets sick, I mean, they're clearly Typhoid Mary. If anybody gets sick, loses wages, dies.
Yeah.
People, all I'm going to say, just be smart. Don't be selfish. If the herd behaves smartly, we'll all be fine.
The herd rarely behaves smartly, Susan. That's all I'm saying. And the level of denial about this, I had a caller yesterday who said he felt that this was being hyped by media, and we get the flu every year, and all those kinds of the same kind of arguments, frankly, that the president is tweeting. And that is such an incredible, I couldn't get that call out of my head all day and all night because, the fact of the matter is Ireland has canceled the St. Patrick's Day parade. Now, is Ireland overreacting? Is Italy shutting down?
Boston.
Yeah, I mean, right. So this is not the deep state trying to embarrass Donald Trump. This is not, obviously, if everyone in the world is reacting, all governments, then this is something different. And people who are somehow reluctant to acknowledge that they are right now living through something they've never lived through before. I want to quote somebody who actually was in the Trump administration, and I'm surprised because he sounds coherent, but he had been probably an acting, he was a Homeland Security advisor at some point. I do not recognize his name. He has not been there for over 2 years. But this is what he says, and this is for people who are in denial. This virus is a threat because it is both highly infectious and lethal. And in this country, not enough people are being tested And we have not gotten those tests up and running. So by the time cases are confirmed, there has already been significant community transmission. And he says this is like, it's akin to looking at a star. You look at a star, and the light you are seeing was emitted, what, a billion years ago
Millions
or something.
of years ago.
Yes.
Right.
But he says it's also like a fire that threatens to burn out of control. It is one we can still contain and eventually extinguish, but we have to act now. And that is what I haven't seen from our governments in general.
No.
And what everybody, all the epidemiologists you talk to and virus experts say, if we were wise about this, we would close everything down now, whether or not there was a suspected case. Close it down. And that way you contain. If you don't contain, then you end up mitigating. And if you don't mitigate very well, you end up with a hospital system totally overwhelmed and overloaded. And we're sort of flying in the dark because of the lack of testing. People are still not being able to get tested.
The other piece that you're leaving out, Lynn, that makes it serious. But again, not to panic, just to understand. The thing that makes it serious is that this is a virus that nobody has any immunity to.
That's right.
It is a new strain. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Nobody has any immunity to it. Usually when the flu comes along, there are some of us that just don't get the flu. We just have natural immunities, and others get the flu. This is slightly more serious than the flu. It kills more people, but a ton of people are going to get it and just feel sick and then get better. That's also the case. We don't want our kids running around terrified about this. They're going to get sick maybe, and then they'll get better, and their moms and dads might get sick, and then they'll get better. But there will be a few healthy people that die, but mostly the old and infirm are the people that are going to get hit by this. So if you love your elderly, and by that I mean Lynn Cullen and Susan Nutzel, we're elderly, just try and wash your hands and contain spread. That's all. This isn't any major
Be smart.
Thing.
And here, I happened to watch did you watch the press conference yesterday with Pence and Trump initially? Did you watch that thing?
I saw Pence talking, and I
it was
what happens when I see either one of them. I run for my life.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
Well, it was interesting. It was interesting because, in many ways, and unsettling in many ways, the president continues to clearly be overwhelmed and freaked out by this, so that he, who never likes anyone taking center stage from him, came out and made a stupid, meandering statement, and then left Pence to deal with it. And I do want to say Pence dealt with it pretty well, as did the people around him who he called up to talk. But what was amazing is how often Pence and the others who fear for their jobs under Trump literally could not utter a sentence of "this has been done" or "this is what we're intending to do" without inserting the words. I wrote them down because I kept hearing it over and over and over and wanted to remember it. Every other sentence.
Our president has.
Close. Under the president's leadership. Nothing could be said about anything that's been done without crediting Trump over and over and over again. The very man who'd already cut and run because he no longer controls the narrative. And this is driving this guy crazy. He figured out long ago that an awful lot of Americans just want to be entertained, can't tell the difference between a news program and a reality show, can't tell the difference between a reality show and reality. He gets that. So he's been giving them a constant, reality show. He can't do that anymore. All his tricks are not working. They're not working. He is
including his stock market trick.
That's right. None of it works. And the only way he can react is, this is all happening to me. To me. The total lack of empathy, the inability to be a leader. I mean, he was shaking hands at a greeting people at an airport the day before yesterday, or maybe it was yesterday. The president should not be seen shake. Yeah, right. He was also, as we know, on an airplane with somebody who now is self-quarantining, this repulsive Matt Gaetz, or whatever his name is, who
right.
who ended
shook the hand.
But Gaetz is the one who showed up on the House floor mocking the reaction to the coronavirus as overheated by wearing like a huge gas mask. I don't know if you ever saw that picture.
Right.
And now
and then a constituent of his dies.
Yes, and then a constituent of his dies. Ha, ha, ha. It's very funny, right? So these people they're freaking out. And I want to say that...
Don't you just enjoy... don't you... I'm sorry.
I'm not enjoying any of this.
No, I do. Just the thought of what happened at CPAC.
No.
Where they're discussing, you don't know about this, that at CPAC, where
of course I know about it. I'm saying I know, but I don't find it funny.
Well, I find it karmatic.
Well, that it is, but I
guess it's karmic, isn't it? I just, if you refuse to believe that something is true, if you preach it's a hoax, and then you find out that someone infected, more than one person infected was at that conference, I find this very interesting to see, whether we listen to what they say or listen to what they do.
Well, the press was asking a legitimate question. They asked Pence if he had been tested, since he, I guess, since people now that these guys... Has the president been tested? I don't know, he says. Have you been tested? No. And I have to say, the press that was at this briefing were asking all the right questions. And I am so sick and tired of people jumping on media, in this case, kill the messenger, because you're freaked out about the reality they're reporting. They were asking pointedly. And I think Fauci was at the microphone at the time, who knows this stuff, up, down. He's just incredibly good. And he was asked point blank, do you think that political rallies should be held, given that we're being told to stay
at home?
Of course not. That's the answer. Even Fauci started like, if it's in an area where we do have confirmed cases, I think that is up for, certainly blah, blah, blah. And even he got a little wobbly. And even though he then started veering into, it would be obviously wiser not... Pence, who's standing behind him, practically starts twitching, going apoplectic, and tries to interrupt him at one point. So these guys, despite themselves, just cannot... I really think Biden and Sanders should stop rallies. Why would you ask people to come to an event in which they will be cheek to jowl with strangers, when there is this virus making its way throughout the country, and we're trying to contain it. And it is the inability of the political leadership, in this case, all three of the old white men who are still in the running, to do something like that and show leadership rather than concern about their own personal political fortunes that has me thinking this is not going to be good here. We do not have the leadership we need in place, and we do not have a public that believes anything anymore. That creates
That's right.
danger, great danger now. It's just beyond me. You know what occurred to me? I hadn't thought about it, but pandemic and panic. Both.
Well, they're the same thing. They're the same root.
Well, it's the same root.
Everywhere.
It's the same root. And so it is not unusual that a pandemic would create panic. Because what a pandemic is the fact that a virus, a pathogen of some sort, has circumnavigated the globe, and in this case, a pathogen, as you said, that we don't know how to combat.
Well, we have no natural resistance to it, for one, and we have no treatment for it, for another. And by the way, we were very close to a coronavirus vaccine, and the funding was pulled. This was a few years ago. I mean, if you follow these stories over and over again, it's not all governmental. You know, a lot of it is capitalism.
Oh yeah, and I've got a lot of things I want to talk about that, because our rapacious capitalist system here is going to be exposed for what it is as well. In European countries, people have a safety net. They are not, if they're sick, they can stay home and know they'll be paid, and they have child care available for their children. None of those things are in this country because we fear socialism, I guess. We fear caring for our people.
No, I mean, this is a real issue. If we have to lock people up, if we have to say stay home, and there are people that will have no money,
That's
no
right.
food.
They can't.
And we will have, as you say, no system in place to support these folks who make their living, spend their money currently to feed themselves and to keep the roof over their head. So if you keep them from the ability to do that and keep current, they won't. They'll have no food. They'll have no place to be. This is not. This is where the infrastructure comes in. This is where your government, knowing what's happening and having systems in place, is all about. This, in fact, is why you want a good and stable government.
Well, Suze, guess
This
what?
is
This
the
is
point.
where the so-called deep state that is now a reality in the heads of millions and millions and millions of Americans, even ones who didn't vote for Trump, somehow this sinister deep state. This is where the deep state either functions and saves your ass or fails because it's been gutted. And we have had a gutted, maligned government because it is run by Republicans who don't believe in government. And nothing is scarier.
Who wants you to think? Who wants you to think that the American citizens who are your neighbors, who are working in the government, turn into ogres and miscreants and communists when they go to work for the government?
This sowing,
I don't
sowing of mistrust in our institutions is going to factor in to the death toll here. as is our rapacious capitalism, as is our dearth of political leadership, as is our tattered social safety net. This country is in for a big shock, I think. And I hope we learn from it. I hope too many don't have to die to prove the point. But I am just stunned at the average person's nonchalance about this. Wow. Really, wow. Yeah,
Well,
the deep state. We need the
I'm
deep
just
state now to
asking us all
save us.
to be calm and use our common sense. And I really think that all of us, as much as we can, should be practicing social distancing now.
I do too.
You really, yeah. I mean, and to the extent that I'm not telling you to quarantine before you have to quarantine, but I'm telling you not to be out and about and going to busy things. And we should start doing
now
all by ourselves.
Right.
What we know the smart thing is to do.
Now.
So don't go to the movies. Don't go to big concerts. Don't go to political rallies.
Yeah.
Don't go where there are going to be a large number of people. When you go to the grocery store, do get what you need. Try not to clear the shelves because other people need to do it too. And if we just keep being real, we'll be fine. For example, when we're quarantined, we already have in place, because the grocery stores are smart, they deliver. If we all stayed home and let them deliver, they'd be safer and we'd be safer.
Well, all of this is true.
I mean, if we could just try and use our head about how not only to make yourself safe, but how to make those around you safe.
But Susan,
we'll all come through this.
I know, but listen,
Yeah.
I appreciate your trying to maintain calm. But we are living in a country that has clearly exhibited that it is an unserious country, and it is not the kind of country that rises to a challenge. I don't see it. I have not seen enough of it. It's a country that elected Donald Trump and a Republican Senate, for God's sakes. That's not a country that's
has
thinking.
All these people that think they did the right thing.
Okay, Beth. Okay.
Listen, on a bright side, we've given back a ton of the filthy lucre that the market shouldn't have had in the first place. And I know that I don't speak for everyone when I say this, but I feel much better. I thought that market was too high to begin with. I thought it was all the result of the worst
rapacious
of our values
capitalism
that was making it go up.
Rapacious
it was
capitalism.
It was and shouldn't have been that high. And frankly, I'm happy to see it go down a little bit lower. It's coming back up today. It's not making it all back up, but it's making some back up. But I'm here to tell you that the fact that there's those oligarchs are doing so well is not so great for us. The fact that those of us that are lucky to have money in the stock market, that's not so great for us if it's just going up on hot air.
Well, look, the two things
we want our stuff
Susan,
to be tied to some sort of reality.
The two things that people care about are their own health,
their own
and the health of their family and loved ones, and money. And both of these are under threat at the moment for an awful lot of people in the entire world. And this is not a regular moment. I need to get that through some people's heads because there's a lot of denial. Can I get into a email here that Beth sent? In finding our federal response or lack thereof very scary, I'm shocked that no one from the House or Senate has asked that our tax day of April 15th be changed to later in the year. Since there is so much that we do not know about this virus other than it is highly contagious, one would think that tax day would spread it even further for those who do not e-file. I have to say cheers to the people who are speaking the truth at the CDC. Also, I would bet when Trump was at the CDC the other day, I noticed he was wearing his golfing outfit. $5 says he went up to the road to the Augusta National to play golf. I don't know if he did, but this weekend, when this country was facing all this weekend, he was at Mar-a-Lago raising money for his campaign, glad-handing, throwing parties, and golfing. That's the leadership of this man. Just beyond comprehension. By the way, in regard to the tax thing, I heard somebody arguing sort of the opposite yesterday, which was that if they do the payroll tax relief, it won't be quick enough. People need the relief now, so that they could stay home if they get sick. And one way to get the relief now would actually be to expedite the checks coming from the IRS.
The tax refunds.
That's right.
So yeah, I don't see postponing tax day. I don't think everybody's out in crowds because it's tax day. You're either sitting in front of your own computer or your own desk with your pencil, however you do it, or you have sent or emailed the stuff to an accountant who's emailing it back to you, and then you're dropping it at the post office or you're e-filing. So you can do your taxes in total social isolation. And in fact, the country needs the money more now, not, less now. The country needs it as well as the people in order to get it to people faster. So no, I don't think tax day and moving it has anything to do with anything.
I think one of the more interesting reactions to the coronavirus, and as a fan of Jeopardy, is that Jeopardy is now has gotten rid of its audience. They have pared down the production so that only people who need to be in the studio are there, and it makes perfect sense. They want to protect Alex Trebek, who is old,
absolutely,
and who is immunosuppressed because of his cancer treatments. And so they've gotten rid of that. And Johnny Gilbert, Susan, who always says, this is Jeopardy. Do you know how old he is? I was stunned.
104.
Close. He's 95.
Yeah.
He's 95. And so he's very high risk. So between trying to save...
as our mother would say, that's young.
Yeah, right. Trying to safeguard Trebek and Johnny Gilbert, they've gotten rid of the audience, and they've done the same at Wheel of Fortune, because Vanna and what's his name are also over 60, and frankly, they don't want their audience there either. Pat Sajak.
Oh.
That's right. So,
Pat Sajak, right.
So, they've just decided...
Just sidestep. Can you imagine being Vanna White and managing to start out as a young woman in evening gowns and end up an old woman in evening gowns?
Doing nothing.
Yeah. Doing nothing but making a really good living, smiling at people.
Right.
And holding her arms up. I just think, wow.
She's lucky. Yeah, no.
How does that happen?
I think she would agree she's lucky. There was Sajak had some surgery earlier this year, and for some reason they had, it was unexpected, and so they actually had to continue producing the show without him. And they'd never done that before. He's always been the guy at the helm. So they decided that Vanna, since she's, God knows, sat through or stood through.
I'm there every day.
Wouldn't be able to do it. So she stepped in. I watched one show with her on it, it was the most excruciating. I so felt for her. She has no ability to do that job. You could have pulled someone off the street and they would have done better. It was just, actually what she did, I'm sure Sajak...
She do that cute little repartee.
No, not at all. And not at all. It's not in her, no. So I'm sure Pat Sajak, sitting at home watching it, was thinking, geez, I hope she doesn't kill the show, but man, is she making me look like gold.
Well, you're right.
She
made it clear to people that what he did
is not easy.
Talent.
Yeah, is not easy. So, and it's not. The ability to do a show like that requires obvious skills, and she doesn't have them. I mean, not even a hint.
No, but what's the skill that she did have? Well, that's what makes it so interesting. The skill that she did have was projecting a warm and inviting and pleasant personality through that television set to the watchers, so that they made her into whoever they wanted her to be, but they liked her.
Yeah.
You know, and that's her talent.
Yeah. Lynn writes, I love that you mentioned the passing of Max von Sydow yesterday. She says, I took a few friends to movie night at Kent State 30 years ago to see The Seventh Seal, which I had already seen twice. After it was over, I asked them, what'd you think? My best friend said, I will never go to another movie that you recommend. Because those Bergman films, I mean, they're not like a Hollywood movie. They are, whoa. And that one, and as Lynn says, she says, I'm sure you understand, it is ironic that he died this week because the movie's backdrop is during the Black Plague that was killing everybody. The Seventh Seal, it's an amazing movie, but yeah, it's not everybody's taste. And it's all I could think of.
I have to say, I was frequently heard to mutter that to my husband after he dragged me.
You know what, if you sort of, those movies are brilliant. They are brilliant. I know they're not our usual cup of tea, but they are brilliant. Seventh Seal is extraordinary. Anyway,
no, those I didn't mind. The ones I minded were the ones like that one. What was it? The baker, the butcher, the baker, the something, the thief. And it was just, it was just a piece of high class male fantasy erotica.
Don't know it.
That would pass as an art film, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
and
well,
those were the ones that used to get me. I would just look at them and go, I'm not fooled.
Yeah, this is like porn to you. Don't dress it up as art, buddy. No, I don't know.
Male fantasy flicks.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But
all right. Well.
But I suppose most people know him. Americans know him from all the American films he did, which generally I don't think of him in American films, but there were tons of them, including Star Wars, right? Including Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
He often played sinister.
He was frequently the scary guy.
Yeah, he was a scary guy.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah. Oh God, what else? What else we got here? Yeah, oh God, it had escaped me that Seventh Seal was the plague. The plague.
Well, and that is, I mean, this isn't as deadly as that, but we should take it seriously.
Yeah.
It is going to be a plague. It's not going to kill that many people, but it's going to be a plague.
It's going to kill me, so I'm a little concerned.
That's still out. I mean,
I am going to, and I don't want people saying I'm nuts, but I am going to be excessively cautious. I have to have a dinner tonight with some people, and after that, that's it. I'm not mixing anymore. I'm not.
Well, yeah, I do think if we all just stayed pat for a while, we would get this over with very quickly. I mean, Wuhan is coming out of it because they locked down. It runs its course and then it disappears. So.
Well, we'll see. We will see.
What I'm worried about, if you really know what I'm worried about, I'm thinking that this might be sort of mild here, this right now, just because of where we are in the weather cycle, and that like the flu, it might very well disappear in the warmer months, but then it's just lurking. It'll just come roaring back in the fall. But that gives us a little time to be prepared.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, people, they're working overtime in labs trying to find, the drug that can get this. So one thing I just wanted to give a heads up about, if you're sort of staying in more, you might find yourself watching more television. And I do have something that I am eagerly looking forward to. For one thing, it's written by a guy who I think created one of the most extraordinary television series of all time, The Wire, and that is David Simon. And his latest is he has taken Philip Roth's novel, The Plot Against America, and has made it into a 6-part series. And it's going to be airing on HBO.
What's this on?
What? The Plot?
HBO?
Yeah, on HBO.
Okay.
Starting, I think, mid-March. I'm not getting the exact date. And I thought that book, when I read it, it came out in 2004. I thought that book was extraordinary. And the book is about, it reimagines a different history happening when Charles Lindbergh ends up being a successful candidate for president. Understandable, he's a great hero, right? And he runs against FDR in the 1940 election, and he wins. So that is the...
Okay, well, yeah, right.
And it shows, and of course, lot...
You're saying Lindbergh Lindbergh's really not a great hero, but go ahead, yes.
No, Susan, I'm saying he was a hero to Americans because of his flight.
Yes, he was.
He was a hero. So then
example.
To take that, and and the fact is he was a neo-fascist too, but most people didn't know that. And then he takes that in the book and becomes a successful candidate and runs against FDR and beats him and allies with Hitler. And so you so you get a whole different reality. So it's called The Plot Against America, and if you read it now, it's almost I hate to say it, it's scary.
Prophetic.
Yeah, it looks like frighteningly prophetic. But this, I think, will really be good. Is the caller still there? We have a caller. I just want you guys to see it, because better yet, read the book. I mean, there's nothing better. The Plot Against America. Hi, caller.
Hey, Lynn, it's Mike in D.C. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Hi.
The virus right now, COVID-19, isn't killing that many people yet. Viruses mutate, and right now it isn't killing 50% of the population. But if you do the math, right, and they're predicting 60% of the world's population will get this, and 3% of that 60% die. That's a lot of people, and way more than the common flu.
Yeah.
So the only tool we have to fight this is social distancing. There's no vaccine yet, or there maybe could have been, but it's the only tool we have to fight this is social distancing. And anybody who doesn't just do that naturally, I'm sorry, what do you think's going to happen?
And what I want to get out is that just because your local media says, and there's no cases yet here, I can assure you there are cases
That
here.
we know of.
Yeah, there are cases here. And it'll be all over the place. We don't have a clue the extent of this at this point.
And you can transmit the virus before you have symptoms.
Right.
I ain't no scientist, but if you can walk around for a day before you're even coughing, giving it to other people, people in Pittsburgh do have it. People in Virginia do have it.
Right. An abundance of caution, I am going to take it. I might even end up not doing the show. Whatever. I'm going to...
Why don't you use this as an opportunity to learn how to do it from home?
I think so, too.
Well,
wouldn't it be nice to be just in your pajamas right now?
Yeah, I would.
Sitting at your coffee table. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. Or I could just...
Somewhat like I am.
Yeah.
But,
and me.
Yeah, right. I mean, but I got an excuse. It's not even 8 a.m. here. But, call my son. He'll show you how.
Well...
Welcome to the 21st century.
Yeah, tell me about it. But I am incapable of this. But if we can...
She's Lynn Cullen.
If we can do that...
And if it doesn't work the first time, you'll try again on Tuesday. And if it doesn't work on Tuesday, you'll try again on Wednesday. You are, even though you're Lynn Cullen, you're capable of learning, right?
Less so than I used to be. And when it comes to this kind, yeah, but I mean, I don't have to somebody's going to have to set it up for me, and then sure, I can.
Right.
I can babble from my house as well as I can babble from anywhere else.
If Susan and I are calling in, you can call in.
Yeah, right.
Right.
And you can call in. And by the way, there is such a thing where you can invite a knowledgeable person, such as my son, onto your own home computer, and he can do it for you.
All right. Well.
So which of you believe, if either of you...
That's a for example, yes. Which what?
Which of you believe that Trump has not had the COVID-19 test yet? Do either of you believe that?
I believe.
Because I think that's the biggest crap I've ever heard.
Yeah,
I think he's a germaphobe, and he's terrified, and he's being tested every hour on the hour.
Right.
See, he'll get the test.
And he's one of the only people being tested.
Yeah. Somehow they'll make sure he's
tested. Kits. That's where they are.
He's hoarding all the kits.
Every time he shakes somebody's hands, he's being tested. Trust my word on that.
He should stop
even if he didn't want to be,
shaking.
even if he said, I'm a he-man, I don't need this, which is what they're trying to apply, his Surgeon General, his physician would say, no, sir, for abundance of caution, we need to take this test right now.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I can't
People
believe the Secret Service is allowing him out in public.
Well, they don't have a choice. The Secret Service doesn't really have a choice on what the president can and cannot do.
I know.
They make recommendations.
Do you remember when Obama had to give up his cell phone?
Oh, please.
He didn't have to. He followed the advice of the Secret Service. That's totally different than having to. Nobody can tell the commander-in-chief you can't shake hands. They can say, sir, if you shake hands, this could happen.
The difference is Obama viewed that kind of recommendation as I don't want to do it, but that's what I have to do.
Right. He
and
really
Trump
didn't want to do it.
Stamps his little foot and says, no.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't, what?
Right.
What I have. And the thing is...
That's one that recognizes the rule of law and one that doesn't. But anyway, go ahead.
Let us remember...
common sense.
Let us remember
you're
that...
You're a octogenarian. You shouldn't be shaking people's hands.
Let us remember... Okay. Let us remember, too, that Trump is a guy who has all through his life been able to escape responsibility for everything, right? He's, in fact, gotten rewarded over and over again. lying, cheating, stealing. It doesn't matter. But it's worked for him, obviously. He's ended up...
It worked for him, right.
Yeah. And...
Do you think this is going to be... Do you think this is going to beat that streak?
Yes, because he's finally doing battle with something he can't bully, a virus.
In which he didn't create. All of his other dramas he created mostly.
He does not have
He didn't
control
create this one.
of this. The virus has upstaged him, and he cannot control it. So none of his tricks
No, and
work.
it's killing his stock market, and it might kill him.
It might
She
kill.
says as she coughed.
Yeah, it might kill Bernie. Listen, it might kill Bernie Sanders too. It might kill Bernie Sanders. It might kill Joe Biden. They are highly in the high risk group, and we could
In
end
the
up.
at-risk group.
We could end up going into November with 2 dead choices. I mean,
Is
seriously,
that why
think
Pete
about it.
Buttigieg just paused his campaign and didn't quit altogether?
I don't know. You tell
And
me.
Who do you think Biden's going to pick for his running mate?
I'm thinking Kamala Harris, but
Yeah.
but I wish it would be Elizabeth Warren to
No way.
Okay, fine. But Kamala Harris would be my bet. But I don't know.
And because she's young in terms of the other runners. That's what they have to do. They have to pick who can outlast me if I get this thing. And everybody who's going to be voting is going to think that. There can't be 2 octogenarians on the same ticket.
Oh, hell no.
That's why I'm
No.
thinking it's either Harris or Stacey Abrams.
Well,
Because I think he's going to want a woman. I think she should be of color, and she should be young.
ideally. So you check off all 3 boxes. But with Harris, you at least get somebody who's been in the fray. Abrams has not.
He's got experience.
Yeah. So because he could die in office. You want somebody who's got a.
And I hate to say this. Being a guy, but she's also pretty.
Yes, that helps too.
Yeah.
Do I have a caller? You know what, Mike? I've got another caller, and I want to
I'm
get
still
him.
on. Okay. Okay.
I'm ushering you.
Nice talking to you.
Nice talk.
Hope you live through this.
Yes, I hope you live through it
Sit
too.
down.
Goodbye. I hope you
Bye.
live through this. Yeah, just don't shake hands, hug me, anything. Just give me whatever. Caller, you there?
Hello, this is Jeff down in Greene County.
Hi.
You're talking about the coronavirus and everything. My dad has been sick for like the past 3 weeks and been having problems breathing. We took him to the ER last week, and the doctor there said they are not allowed. They do not have any equipment to test for coronavirus, and they're not allowed to diagnose it. And then they thought he might just be getting some kind of virus, and they gave him a breathing treatment and a steroid shot and nasal spray to help it, get him unblocked. And it was working for a while, and then just yesterday we had to take him back to the ER. He was short of breath and everything, and he's got pneumonia now. And also the doctor there said they don't have anything to test. They can't diagnose it. Plus, they were like filled to the brim with flu cases. So I'm kind of wondering if some of the flu cases were maybe coronavirus. Who knows? But
We don't know. We do not know.
Yeah.
We are flying
We don't know.
blind. Is your father in Greene County?
No, he's down in Morgantown, West Virginia.
Okay.
He's at Ruby Memorial, and we had to wait like 11 hours just for him to get a room because they are packed to the gills now.
If they're packed to the gills right now, they are incapable of handling what's coming their way.
Yeah, it's really bad right now, and it's going to get worse. So
Well, thanks for that dose of reality. And you know what? I hope your dad's okay. I hope your dad's
I
okay.
hope he's going to be okay too. He's 80, and I'm really worried about him. So
I understand. Hang in there,
Okay.
and good luck.
That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
Being
Thank you so
positive
much,
thoughts.
Jeff.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, well, I was hearing that from people in Wisconsin that the hospital, the main hospital in Green Bay, is packed to the gills with what they are true thing, and I'm sure that it probably is basically just flu. It's been a really bad flu season. And I think they know if they're looking at influenza versus something else.
But what's happening, Susan, is, and there's a piece in the New York Times today about a woman, Susan.
It's mixing in, right? Yeah.
We don't know. So people show up at an ER, and they cannot be tested for the coronavirus. So what happens is they'll test for the flu, and if that comes back negative, which it did for like the woman whose piece I read, they tell her, depending on what doctor she gets, it's okay, or you need to quarantine yourself immediately. Because the assumption then is she's got it, even though we don't have a clue.
Right.
And
right. We know what you don't have, therefore you probably have coronavirus. Right.
That was in New York City. Hospitals are absolutely ill-equipped. Also, our hospitals and the system, the way they work, they are not set up to deal with any kind of outbreak like this. They don't have the beds. They don't have the staff. They don't have the masks. They don't have enough ventilators. So I'm sorry to be the person who's talking reality, but we're heading into something pretty. It's going to throw them. It's just going to show how bad our healthcare system is, how bad our just general infrastructure is, how crippled our government has become, and the fact that the population doesn't believe what they're being told because they've been taught to be suspicious of and disbelieving of, and everything that they don't want to hear is just a hoax. This does not bode well for this specific emergency. It bodes ill.
No, but it doesn't change the basic fact that we each have within us the power to the first line of defense against this big bad monster virus happens to be just washing your hands and not touching your face and social distancing. So do that. Wash your hands. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth, and stay 8 feet away from everybody. Don't hug people. Don't shake hands. You can be very pleasant. Stand far away and just be smart. If we each do that, we will contain this quicker.
Susan,
and make it less deadly. It's all in our power. Let's do it.
Well, you sound like
it's so simple, really.
It's so simple. No, it's not, because the factor here is human nature. And I don't know. Yesterday I bought a few things, and I paid with my credit card. And in some instances, they take your card. And I was thinking as he handed it back to me, oh, geez. He's touched my card. Now I'm touching my card. Everything seems like, the angel of death to me now. So that's where my head is, and I'm, whatever.
Well, Carry some wipes with you. You should be disinfecting your phone quite regularly.
I
and
am
the bottom of your purse.
I'm
Anything.
doing.
I wouldn't be carrying a purse out in public anymore. I would be using pockets, because women, you put your purses down on the floor, on surfaces, everywhere, and then you bring that into the house. So stop with your purse. Just put a credit card and your license and some money in your pocket. Forget about the goddamn lipstick and go.
All right, Susan has spoken, and we're out of time. Forget about the goddamn lipstick and go. Okay? Susan, good advice. I thank you very much. And
everybody be well. We're all in this together, guys. Let's try and use our common sense. Be calm. Wash your hands.
Yeah.
Bye.
And I just want to say, a lot of people wrote in and said The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover is the film, and that starred Helen Mirren. Okay? And they liked it.
Well, not in any really major sense.
I'm out of here.
All right. Maybe it did. Okay, goodbye.
Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.